Hi, I'm Danny Randell, and this is Andrew Yang, and this is Estall.
Welcome. We are super excited to bring to you today the first look at our full set BJDs that we've been building with Sideshow over the past, over a year, I guess. These are the Underworld Muses. And they are a quarter scale BJD line, and these are the fully dressed dolls that we'll be offering with our first release.
So this is based off of Court of the Dead's Atelier Muses. So this is sort of their market look. It's what they're doing as their day-to-day, but they're sort of an elevated iteration of flesh, bone, and spirit.
So the Court of the Dead is this amazing dark goth fantasy line. It's Sideshow's original creative property. Tom Gillian, who's the creative director of Sideshow, has dreamed up this huge, wonderful world. And when we were brought on with S-Doll, I really wanted to create a doll concept for this world, and it's kind of its own micro universe within a universe. There's these factions in the Court of the Dead, and there's the faction of flesh, the faction of bone, and the faction of spirit. And they're kind of like we've thought of the muses as kind of the supermodels of the underworld. What would the kind of the fashion look and feel of each faction be? And that's kind of what we worked with.
Totally. So the coolest part about the Underworld is its amalgamation of time. So you really have this cool opportunity to express fashions and fantasies of today, because we live in the 21st century and people are picking and choosing how they want to dress, how they want to perform, how they want to be. So we have like sort of this 18th century vibe here with flesh, but it's a little twisted. It's a little time bending upon itself and people using things that don't really belong together, sort of in a contemporary way, which is like, we dress this way anyway.
So the first collection, so I've called this Atelier Cryptus, and in the underworld, there's this place called the Curio Cryptus, and it's this place full of baubles and lost memories, and it's kind of the open market bazaar of the underworld of the dead. And I imagined these three muses, wandering through, and what would they wear? It's a ready-to-wear collection. But we also were charged with coming up with a fashion sense for each of the factions in a really cool way.
And as fashion people, we were sort of inspired by some designers such as Galliano, Alexander McQueen, but taking it into our own space. And actually, if you want to check out our Instagram, which is S-Doll, you can see some of our inspiration. We posted some of our mood boards. So you can kind of get an inside view of where we were going and sort of where we picked and chose inspiration to meld together.
And this wasn't like we just, free for all, just went for design. Each of the factions had really kind of a set up vocabulary of colors and moods and themes. So let's start with flesh.
So flesh is flesh. It's body, it's sensuality, it's fluidity, it's mobility, it's shifting and a constant evolution. So there is sort of a low-key reference to, in the monster world, sort of zombie and a monstrous piece. So we wanted to take that and say, how can we make flesh, how can we make the body beautiful? So it's like stepping away from Ligor, it's like we chose sort of fluids, the fluids of blood. So what we did here is we chose some beating. So here's some delicate bleeding down her accoutrement.
And like flesh is all about evolution, it's all about creativity, it's all about expression and kind of like forming your own the skin you're in. And it's also kind of the hardest of the three. I mean, with spirit, you think a ghost and spiritual and bone is a little more like rigid and structured. So flesh was kind of where we had to do the most of invention, but also we had a lot to play with, which was cool.
Yeah, and that's one of those design experiences where you're like, when you think really hard, it's like you don't want to overwork something, but she wasn't as clear. So over time, it's like when you're working with a team of people, as you do, you get pieces here, you get pieces there, and then it becomes cohesive, and then you're like, oh wow, this is actually what it's saying. So in the wig, for example, the wig is a multi-tonal wig. We're using a lot of different materials in it. So there's some like cool yarns, there's some a few tones of hair, there's a few textures of hair. They've kind of been brushed out. We have the curls, and then we also have some metallics, some light metallics just glimmering in there because we do want to bring that little glitz to it.
And we got she's got these beautiful painted hands that are a little messy because she's getting in whatever creativity she's doing.
The dip dye gore.
And I wanted to set her apart and do something that was a little different from the other girls. So we decided to give her like a little bit of more of a masculine touch. I think about her like the musketeer. So she's got a cape. She's got these great shorts that have like, you know, these gores in them. There's actually there's a blouse, a vest, a collar piece that's beaded, corsets, and these wrist cuffs. All of that stuff you can move around and play with.
Yeah. It's important to us when we're designing dolls. Play pattern's important, and we come from a place of styling. So it's about taking these dolls and picking and choosing how you want to display them, how you want them to wear the garments. Well, we show it here. It's like, okay, this is sort of what we've come to, but all of the pieces are movable. You can move the neck piece to the arm piece to the collar. You can use the cape in different ways.
You could wear them in the shoes. You could wear them around the shoes. You could wear them around the hair. I'm a doll collector as well as a designer. And, you know, the landscape of doll collecting has changed a lot. It's become a lot more expensive. Things are more difficult to produce. So when you're doing a fully dressed doll, it can cost a lot. It can cost a lot to invest in a new line, especially when you're a collector already. So I want to make sure that there's versatility, that you're really kind of getting a lot for what you get when you invest in a fully dressed doll.
And the cool thing about a modern doll, especially one with so much posability, it's like it becomes an objet. You can have it in your house, you can have it on your desk, you can have it in your bed, you can really do a lot with it. And all the pieces we really do want to give sort of an endless iteration of like, oh, like what can I do with this here? How can I
actually, let's talk about the sculpts for a minute. So.
Sure.
The sculpts were initially sculpted by Kayla Nadel, and she's this phenomenal sculptor. We'll link to her social. She just has this really like whimsical, like just really naturally raw approach to doing sculpture. We developed one body type for all three, but we're differentiating between the heads and the hands. And then we'll also, be later on be doing more sculpted special one-off pieces that you'll be able to swap out. That's the wonderful part about BJDs. Ada Legrand of Legrand Dolls is a phenomenal sculptor, maker, engineer. She and Kayla have collaborated together in the past, and she kind of helped us come up with all the engineering. So she's really kind of tight and beautiful and poses really well. And then, I worked with Layla Lee of Cooler Face Ups, and she's one of my favorite BJD artists, face up artists. And she
really can capture so much cool detail in small little doses.
I didn't even have to give her like a super crazy design brief. I basically kind of talked her through the factions, talked her through the color palettes and the feelings. She saw some of the clothes, and then we just kind of let her, go for it.
That's the cool part about collaborating as artists. It's where you choose your strengths. It's like, you have a vision, and you're like, you know what? I know this artist who is wicked at this execution, so let me work with you and let me see how you infuse this. So that's been like a really magical piece of the process of working with Sideshow.
Yeah, the BJD world and the doll collecting world is now one of collaboration. There's not really like, a ton of players in the market. It's all about artists. It's all about collaborating. It's all about, a community. And I think that we really wanted to make sure that like when we developed these dolls with S-Doll that they were in touch with the spirit of the future of doll collecting.
And that's like in the property of Court of the Dead, the spirit of the underworld is this adventurous. It's like let's take the best souls and make a world. So that's sort of how we want to have that union be.
Well, and the freedom of the underworld, and what's so cool about like the story and the world itself is that, you know, you're in this realm where, you know, you can kind of take the best of history and humanity and create your own look with it, and I feel like the dolls really capture that.
So this is Flesh, and Flesh has these really cool leg coverings going down to her cool sculpted boots, and there's like a lot of cool details about the individual factions on these girls, and they will be interchangeable too, so it is a choose your own adventure as they go.
The sculpted details are amazing. I mean, I know that some collectors freak out when there's like cast and sculpted shoes, but when you're working with you know,
major sculptors, are Matt Black actually
yeah,
here at Sideshow.
He was a big part of kind of the initial breadth and feeling of a lot of like the fashions and the sculptures.
And then a little side note where we discovered that he had worked on Monster High back in the day. So
lots of different brands.
Lots of different brands. So for some doll collectors who have grown out of that brand, I mean, this is like sort of an evolution of, we love a monster world. It's like there's these archetypes that fit, that we all respond to, and it's like, who do you respond to more?
Well, and Esther Skadunas, she does a lot of the cut and sew here at Sideshow, and we really gave her some fun free reign with Estelle. When I had sketches, but she really brought them to life, and she's a costumer, a historical fanatic like us, so she was able to really bring cool historical details to the clothes and see things and create things that we didn't even see on our own. I mean, just this like there's so much happening. Like there's this is a double layered cape. It has lace trim, 2 different kinds of lace and borders.
And just the fabric choices, like we're really specific about fabric choices and, you know, open market stuff, and then we've customized a lot as well. But we wanted to convey sinew of like bodies, of like musculature, of like all of these human details and design details into the fabrication of the garments. So it's like it's conveying body through
Flesh
fabrics.
is like gory, but make it fashion.
So her palette, you can see her palette is like red and, you know, the warm colors, the body colors. So now moving on to...
Let's do Spirit next.
Spirit is the ethereal form. Spirit is sort of the mind. It's also the searching. It's it's the gossamer.
I would say she's also super romantic. So we really went with like, you know, a 18th century petticoat. Like underneath here, there's actually like...
Yeah, it's super cool. It's a bone. It's like a mini boned petticoat.
Like a cute, gorgeous little, and it's all bound, and there's lace trim, and I mean, you'll be able to make your own skirt, add something cool on top.
Or if you want to just display it with the boning. I'm into underpinnings, so it's super cool to see this floating boning, and it actually, Spirit being the sort of airy piece of it, it's like it really, the boning conveys this sort of floating aspect.
Spirit's all about layers, and I mean, you can see even though these are dress dolls, when you pose and play with them, you'll really be able to like even pose the outfits too. I mean, with these big sleeves, they can easily become part of her gown. Spirit is cool because we wanted to make her just a little more ephemeral than the rest. So her head and her hands are actually like bumped up just a tiny bit,
and
with
a
the
cool
scale.
piece, there's a gradient with her feet, so her feet are actually these floating
We decided instead of giving Spirit shoes, which would anchor her a little too much in the ground kind of world, we wanted to elevate her. So she has her own sculpted feet. They'll be cast in clear resin and beautifully painted with this like ombre blue color. And after we have the photo shoot, you'll see all these the gorgeous details up close. But
Yeah,
they
you're actually getting this is sort of
the-
like a first view for you guys, and we're super excited to share this with you.
Yeah, but when you see the full detail shots of everything, you'll kind of get the full impact. But the shoes,
So the hands
Hand
are
down.
actually designed to come off. So
they're magnetic.
They're magnetic?
Of course, these are still prototypes, so everything will be perfected. And
But you know, for those
secure.
of you who are redressing dolls, and we've all gone through this, where it's like you have these beautiful garments, and then it's like you have to push the hands through. So what we've done is we've given magnetic hands, so the dressing does become a lot easier.
And then this wig is this cool ombre nylon fiber, acrylic fiber, and you know it kind of perfectly captures the color palette. She's not quite blonde, but she's definitely still ghosty. So we really, her look is kind of all about layers, floating, and you know,
Transparency, lace, like we're dealing with a lot of different opaqueness. So
I think that there's something about her. I think it is the hands where they're the most. She's just super expressive. I mean, maybe it's because we all kind of know that classic ghost archetype really well, but you know, she kind of has this searching, longing look, and so her
It's this-
taste is really like, I just say romantic. It's
totally.
Just,
There's something like traditional Gothic, wandering through the halls, sort of ambiently searching, a heart search. So sort of this romanticism, this gossamer spooky romanticism that we all jump to.
and I mean, you'll see when we do some more editions of these girls. You know, the sculpts themselves are just so versatile, and but we're starting her. She has these kind of glossy, pearly eyes, and has this beautiful little O mouth expression.
It's like the longing Jacob Marley sort of.
And again, we've got multiple pieces here that you'll be able to take off and use other ways. She's got this cute little metallic belt, this gorgeous blouse with these sleeves, but also like a cool vest that's like semi-constructed, and a couple layers that can go onto this skirt.
Yeah, and again, these layers are totally versatile. You can swap them out, and as we go on, we'll show you some different iterations with posing and flexibility of the garments. Again, the wigs too will be interchangeable, and that's your choice. When you know, if you guys are collecting a few of them, and you could swap them out and choose your own adventure.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's fun about the factions is, yeah, even though they're their own faction, I mean, you could totally get the whole collection and mix and match any of them, and especially this particular collection, because it's about the baubles, it's about the bits and pieces and the accessories and the things that they would take with them. So we're gonna move on to Bone, and you know, we've been sharing some cool preview images on our Instagram and across Facebook, and I think she's the favorite.
So far, people have jumped to her, but do tell us, like, who are you excited for? Because we're excited about all of them.
Well,
And it's like
we
we're
are excited
attached to
for
them
all
in a
of them.
different way because we've lived with them for a year and change. So
We always knew Bone would be the standout because I think that just the look of Bone in the Court of the Dead is
It's
really,
so
really strong.
clear and strong.
And so Bone, the faction of Bone is all about precision. It's all
structure,
about structure. It's all
justice.
about intention. And we feel like this muse kind of reflects all of that pretty well. Early on, it just felt like pleats were the best thing to reflect that. But how do you do pleats in a way that's friendly to dolls, and it's kind of in a new, so I did this mashup of like, you know, really crisp 50s Dior, but mixed with like 18th century silhouettes and vibes. This was the easiest, she kind of came to us
she was the clearest.
fastest.
She was the clearest for us when we started to ruminate on, like, okay, where are we coming from with this? What time periods are we drawing from? And she seemed sort of the most sort of modern to us in a weird way, even though we are pulling so many historical elements with the pleats, and the color palette is really kind of cool for me. There's sort of this like dusty ballet pink, which is we're bringing the feminine in these very strong structured colors of like
And
the
she will
tan.
have this. We have like a little veil, a printed veil that like she doesn't have.
Yeah, we
here.
really had a cool opportunity to explore some textiles, printing on fabrics that, frankly, I've never seen printed on. So that's a fun little, like, as a costume nerd, it's really been a cool thing to work with Sideshow.
So
and be
she
able
will
to
have
convey
a
this.
veil, and then I mean, she has these great skull pieces. Like Bone doesn't have a wig, but she has these gorgeous pieces that in the future we'll be making different versions of. So you'll be able to pop those on and off.
Yeah.
And then of course that veil
And
will be a fun detail.
So she has kind of the most sculpted details because Bone being the most structured. So she's got this really cool bodice, which is referencing the ribs, and then in the back you can see it's like a spine, and the peplum
Yeah,
pops
there's a
out.
back piece to this corset that is just a cool little spine, peplum.
Yeah, so it's
everything is, even though there are hard elements, they're all bound together with ribbons,
Mm-hmm.
and don't worry, there's not like a wrong or right way to do it. That's the way we kind of made it again with the spirit of everything else.
That's the
we
fun
wanted
piece.
to make it so you could tie the ribbons. So do this. You could give them a beautiful bow in the front.
And you could see the ankle details. There are little skulls, which are actually the clasp, are the notches.
Yeah,
for
these
your
are actually
lace.
like the tiny notches to the boots, and this is just speaks to the craziness of attention to detail that is such a wonderful thing about like Estal being a part of the sideshow and us being able to have access to some amazing sculptors. These are like kind of clamshell pieces that will clamp over the legs. You don't have to worry about pulling on a crazy boot, but then you can use the ribbons to lace them up. And then there's some great shoes that will snap on. These are, you definitely check out the mood boards and see if you can clock some of the designers that we referenced. But we definitely made everything our own. Bone just has such like a gorgeous, elegant face. I mean, we printed one life size just to see, but like we didn't change anything, and you can just see like even in this stream, you can just see how much detail there is, how much like there's so much texture.
Beautiful texture, all the sinews and the fraxels in the skull, which is like super cool.
And it's like, how do you do something like make a skeleton and make it like gorgeous and romantic? And I think we really kind of nailed it here. I mean,
Bodies are beautiful in every iteration, and this is this is like the base body. It's like, okay, the skull, the skeletal structure, it's like the base structure that everything else is sort of built on. So it's like we really wanted to create a feminine, strong iteration of that, and I think she's sort of there. I hope you guys like her.
yeah,
We're
I mean,
kind of in
and
love with her.
so this is just our first full set collection. But we will be offering blank dolls as well. And one thing I think we're really excited about is we're doing a blank, like a doll show at the end of May 31st. There's a contest, enter tickets to win. Check it out, side.show/muse show. It's all about, we've invited different BJD artists and sculptors and painters who aren't in the doll world to get a blank Muse doll and interpret it on their own. We have with Xanthi is like a super amazing painter, and Layla who did the face ups on these. She's doing her
some
own.
of our friends at Integrity Toys are also joining
Mark
in.
Tinky, who's done, he's responsible for just creating a lot of like gorgeous clothes with Integrity. And so, I mean, we have a really cool mix of artists, makers, designers, who are all going to be kind of taking the muses and the spirit of the muses and doing their own interpretation.
Totally.
I'm
So
like really excited to see what some of them come up with.
Who is your muse? When you think about a muse inspires. So that's what we wanted to convey with the blank dolls. It's like, hey, here is a base, here's where we're coming from the court, but it's also like, how do you project your vision onto this?
Yeah, I mean, definitely like write and share your comments. I really want to hear, again, who are your favorites and why? What do you hope to see in some future collections? What do you like or not like about these? There's plenty more to come, and the Underworld, the muses, the world of the Court of the Dead is so big. We have some other great collections that we're super excited to share. But of course, that all depends on the success of these beauties. So I want to make sure that we hear what you have to say as collectors.
And we'll be having a pre-order coming very soon.
Yeah,
So,
pre-orders coming up, and of course we'll be we're having amazing like a photo shoot with these girls and the blanks in the colors that we're going to do. The blanks are going to be more color specific to the factions. But these are definitely like what you these are the solid prototypes for
this
Atelier Cryptis. So we're super excited. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Yeah, and let us know what you think, how you feel for this first look, and we look forward to more for you guys.
Bye.